Today we're going to be talking about Windhelm and Yoshgrimor, the the guy that led 500 companions into Skyrim from Atmora, which was up here somewhere. And as you know from the Winterhold quests, they have a little tomb down here that got raided by the Snow Elves. But his 13th companion founded Windhelm, became the first king, effectively establishing the kingdom of Skyrim. But Yoshgrimor, he's the one that brought his men across from Atmora and established the first, basically the first area controlled by man in an area dominated by elves. This would have been originally dominated by Snow Elves and Dwemer, as you know from all the Dwemer ruins all the way down here. But our story today starts with the events of the Fourth Era. Literally the 5th year of the Fourth Era, that's 5 years after Martin Septim gave his life fighting Dagon and the end of Oblivion, the end of the Oblivion game. So 5 years after that game ended, right, we had the Red Year. That's when Red Mountain erupted and covered Morrowind in ash. We also had the Argonian invasion as well following that, and basically Dwemer were Dumna were escaping Morrowind down this path here and on into Skyrim in order to get away from the war and the eruption. Vivec City got destroyed at that time. They say it was I can't remember the name of the asteroid, but the asteroid crashed into Vivec City that triggered the eruption in the first place. It was held aloft by Vivec himself, so the day it dropped was the day, according to the law, was the day when the people of Morrowind stopped believing in him. So the day they stopped believing in him, the asteroid crashed into Vivec City and destroyed most of Morrowind with the in the Red Year. But this document here is a decree from the Jarls welcoming the refugees into Skyrim, allowing them to practice any religion they like and settle anywhere they like and be free of persecution. This tower here is where they would come to talk, to find out, if anybody they knew survived, leave notes and things like that. So we're talking quite some time ago. Right now we're like almost 200 years on from those events. So 200 years in the past, in the Elder Scrolls lore, there would have been refugees marching down here on their way to Windhelm and other cities. So let's go to Windhelm and let's take a look. The area we're in right now used to be called the Snow Quarter by the ancient Nords. Now the ancient Nords handed this over to the refugees to live in. This is when they started escaping the Red Mountain's eruption and the Argonian invasion. Now it's called the Grey Quarter.
Forming a Dawn Guard. Vampire hunters or something in the old fort near Riften. Might consider joining up myself.
Really? Very good. Right. That, by the way, is Telvania Hall. It's one of my mods. But anyhow, this Grey Quarter was handed over to the Dumna, so they could have some place to live. Now, Ulfric, he decreed that they had to stay in the quarter, which indicates that they probably were allowed to live anywhere in Windhelm before him, and when he came to power, that ended. Although you might notice there are certain high elves living elsewhere in the city, so it indicates that the high elves conformed to Nord culture, whereas the Dumna never did. And neither did the Argonians, because the Nords are very protective of their culture. They don't want other cultures polluting theirs. Right? It says, as soon as you come into the town, you hear that polluting our air with your stink and not helping the Stormcloaks. They want to see people that come to their city join their culture and support it. And that wasn't happening. So anyhow, the Argonians live here. It says they work on the docks. They're not allowed into the city. That's where they sleep, the Argonian assembly. The Dumna are kept in the Grey Quarter. Says you can see they're separated from the rest of Windhelm. There's some plaques on the wall here, gives us a bit of a history of Windhelm. Now that plaque there has the same writing on both sides. Right, same as the other one. Now we'll start here, right? with Harold. Now Harold reigned from the first era 143 to 221. He's the 13th of Yosgrimar's companions and founder of the great kingdom of Skyrim, an establishment of this fair city of Windhelm. I believe that's what it says. And here we have Olaf One Eye, who reigned from first era 420 to 452. He subdued the dragon Numenix. That's the dragon in the tower, the great tower in Windhelm, not Windhelm, Whiterun. You hear about that as part of the main plot. He's the dragon in the tower, and he's the guy that did it. And he reunited Skyrim after a war of succession, says, and conquered the Reach. So he basically annoyed all the Forsworn. So the War of Succession, that's a different story. But basically, you'll hear people talk about him in various different ways. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. But there are various quests linked to him in the game. So this city here has more to do with what you see in Skyrim than Solitude does, because this is the original home of the kings of Skyrim. And this guy, the 13th companion of Yosgrimar, he founded the city. And since he reigned from 143 to 221, I think you can say safely that the city was founded roughly in 143, give or take 10 years or so. Don't know how big it would have been then, it might have just been a small settlement. But anyway, let's move on up. Now this is the palace where the original kings of Skyrim would have held court. If there was ever an independent Skyrim, I reckon this is where the new kings would be, where they'd reign again. Right now it's home of the Stormcloaks, right? Because of Ulfric Stormcloak. And as you know from the main quest, he was used by the Falmor. They basically manipulated him into doing his bidding. He's one of the reasons why there's a civil war going on now, because of what the Falmor did and encouraged him to do. So whether he knows it or not, he's a tool of the Falmor. Probably means if the word ever got out, his days would be over, and that would be the end of the Stormcloak rebellion. But this is the oldest palace in Skyrim, and the oldest city made by man in Tamriel, probably. Now if we just go around here and we take a little nosy at the rest of the town, this is where most of the Nords live in fairly relative comfort. A bit different from the Snow Quarter, or the Grey Quarter as they called it today, which is a bit of a slum. Here the houses are a lot better. And this is the player home. It's the home you get. Now if you're playing a Nord, or a character that follows Nord culture, you really can't have any other home but that. That's the home you should try to get. It's one of the best ones in Skyrim, to be honest, I think, and you've just got to complete the quest for the murder that happens down here, and then you can get the home. But overall though, if you want to know what the Nords think, right, really think, you have to come to the east of the country, the east of the kingdom. That is this side here, because this is where the strongest Nord culture is, and this is where they're very defensive of their culture. Those that accepted the culture are allowed, to Nords to do what they want. So it isn't a racist thing; it's a cultural battle. It's the Nords culture versus the Dumner culture. Now, like I said, the Dumner and the Nords always fighting, always. I mean, they had the Battle of Red Mountain, numerous things. The heart of Lorcan was taken in battle, so it was hidden by the elves, so, Lorcan could never be reunited with it. There's all kinds of lore and stories that go on in the background that explain all the wars and everything else that went on. So it's a separate story entirely. I don't cover it in my Return to Helgen mod. There is quite a bit of that background lore in there. But this city here is probably the most important city in Skyrim. It's the one you really need to appreciate, because This is Nords. This is Nord culture. This is everything Skyrim is supposed to be right here. Everything else is more of a libertarian type area that's more accepting of outside cultures, which isn't really how the Nords are. I would say overall though that what you're looking at here is a typical Nord scene in a typical Nord town with a typical Nord history. So if you want to be a Nord or support a Nord culture, you have to come to Windhelm. Anyway, hope you've enjoyed this little chat about Windhelm,
Spare
and I'll
coin.
see you in the next one.
Talos rewards the generous.
And if you talk to her, you'll get trained in pickpocketing, which if you get
I
up to
hope the wind dies down a
50%,
bit before tonight.
if you get up to
Hard when you've
50%,
gotta
you'll be
sleep
able
outside.
to, add 100 carry weight to your character. There's a quick tip for you. Right, see you later.